I would like to invite to the stage Joseph Reger, Chief Technology Officer at Fujitsu. Joseph Reger.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to have a couple of remarks before we start the panel discussion this afternoon. And the panel discussion will be revolving around disruption, innovation, and digital technologies. I just have a couple of remarks, and without much further ado, let's start with them. First of all, I'd like to say that we always had disruption. It's just, it never was so disruptive as it is these days. And there is a reason for that. The reason for that is that disruption has become digital. Now, this word digital, I don't know how many times, that would be an interesting number to know, how many times this word has been used at the conference and will be used throughout the day and the evening. Digital means many things to many people, and since I ended up not really speaking any language as a native tongue, I look into dictionaries to figure out what words mean. And it just occurs to me that there is a huge confusion about what the word digitize and digitalize mean. So let me have a go at that. It will help us to understand the rest. So if we turn something into digital, then we digitize it. That process is a digital conversion of something. A digital conversion converts a book into an e-book, a piece of music into an MP3 file. It converts a document that is on paper into something that can be stored on a computer. That's digital conversion, digitization, or we have just digitized that document. Now, if you look into the dictionaries, Oxford Dictionary will tell you, and the company McKinsey insists, I don't know whether there are any people from McKinsey in the room. The company McKinsey insists that they use the word digitize for everything, and digitize and digitalize mean the same thing. And I don't agree. Because digitize is something that creates a content, and therefore it's a conversion. And digitalize is a process where we convert more than just something into digital, but the entire process around it, and create maybe a digitalized process that can be automated. The routines of artificial intelligence can be applied to it, and therefore an entirely new situation, one that can be used for innovation, is created. I'll give you an example. If we take a document, if we scan it, we digitized it. But that means you can store it like that. But if you take that document and index it and put workflow items around it, what needs to happen if certain keywords appear in that document, and who needs to read it and how it gets forwarded, and you apply some machine learning to figure out how to respond to it automatically without actually involving a human being, then you are starting to automate an office. So you digitize the document, but digitalize an office. And if you do this well, soon the whole country and the public administration can be run in an automated fashion driven by artificial intelligence and machine learning and high levels of automation, and therefore you digitalize the public sector like that. So with that, you have a tremendous potential to disrupt lots of things. Things can change now. This change starts with digitizing a content, but ends up with digitalizing the whole process, and that's what makes disruption these days incredibly powerful. Just how powerful would it be like to make this whole digital transformation is a good question. And amazingly, the answer to that depends on the region that we are speaking in or about. Because it seems that digital transformation in Silicon Valley is something very different from what we need here in Europe. I know there's a lot of talk, and a lot of politicians will say, let's become like Silicon Valley, and every country tries to build their own Silicon Valley, and so on. I'm somewhat opposed to that because it's a different problem. You know why it is a different problem? Because here in Europe, we have a history. We have our infrastructure, we have our buildings that are thousands of years old or a couple of hundred years old. We have our railroads, we have our railways, we have our bridges, and we have our factories that actually produce, for example, cars and things like that. So we have something of a touch of the analog world, and if we now go incredibly hard on it with digital disruption, we might be ending up with not having enough jobs for our people. So what Europe needs is a smart digital transformation instead of a brainless, disruptive transformation, digital transformation. By the way, speaking about jobs, since I said it depends on the country, we are in Poland, in which today, I'm with Fujitsu, our company has 2,000 people here on the ground. So we know what we are talking about, and we know, what the assets are here, and how nice this is, and how good it is to work with people here in Łódź and in Poland. But wait just a minute. What's happening with this digital disruption? I just mentioned that there may be jobs in the car industry or machine manufacturing industry are maybe in danger because of the automation and the applications of artificial intelligence. But is that where it stops? Or is it going to cut through the layers of society and IT stacks as well? Maybe some other jobs are also in some danger. And don't believe for a second if you hear politicians talk about, conciliatory remarks like, oh, it's not going to be that bad, and previous versions of the industrial revolutions were like that too, like the first industrial revolution in the beginning of the 19th century, the steam engine, annihilated a bunch of jobs, but then created new jobs, and net, we were good. There were more interesting new jobs. And the second industrial revolution, at the beginning of the 20th century maybe, the electricity did exactly the same. And the third in the 1960s with the automation of manufacturing did the same. So it's going to be like that this time around too. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, digital disruption will annihilate a number of jobs, but at the end, we end up with more jobs than we used to have. The problem with this statement is that it might not be true. It might not be true this time, and fact is that we don't know what the net effect is, what machine learning automation does to the job landscape and the job market. We know two things. The one is that as opposed to previous industrial revolutions, what we see here is that, say, artificial intelligence and automation, it cuts through the entire job pyramid. It's not like that it used to be, that only the low-level jobs at the bottom of the pyramid are taken out. No, it is not like that at all. Because what can an artificial intelligence system do these days? It can learn to make quick decisions that are typically better than human experts would do them. It can do resource management. It can rearrange things, who is doing what at what time. You understand now that I'm talking about several layers of management in modern companies that can be automated. So it's not like it used to be. As Jerry Kaplan, one of the American professors in the field, said about automation, it applies to artificial intelligence as well. Automation, he said, is blind to the color of your collar. What he means by that, blue collar, white collar workers are both affected. So why am I telling this story to you here in Poland? Because, we like this. We have 2,000 people on the ground because you do business services well, you do service desk well, you do automation well. There is R&D development that we do here locally and other companies do. And there's software development here. Good. The problem is that you need to think about what happens to all these opportunities in jobs in 5 years from now and in 10 years from now. Because I can tell you one thing, software development is going to become a blue-collar job very soon and will be automated away. So what this means in translation, that you need to think about how this whole thing will develop and what is the place of your country, of your company in the international value creation chain of this whole digital disruption business. And lastly, I would like to say a word about the role of technology in all this. I am the Chief Technology Officer of Fujitsu in this region, Europe, Middle East, India, Africa, and so. And I spend a lot of time trying to figure out what the role of technology is, and it's not easy for me to say that the primary role of technology in these digital disruptive developments is getting smaller and smaller. That has to do with the fact that we have enough technologies to do amazing things, and it also has to do with the fact that the focus has been shifting for a while now. And I don't know whether you remember when the last disruptive technology came out of Silicon Valley, say, because what comes out these days is business disruption, not so much technology disruption. There is no conference on digital anything without mentioning Airbnb and Uber and so on. Look at the technologies they use. I'm not trying to be negative about them, but they are not really exciting and not really impressive or whatever, because that's not what it was needed. What was needed is the application of a technology to do a business model disruption instead of a technology disruption. So that is very important to keep in mind, that disruption is moving away from technology and moving towards business disruption, and the two need to work together somehow. It's very difficult to make it work together that way, and I'm really delighted that my company has found a way to make this work, at least in many instances it does work well. We call that methodology digital co-creation. It turns out that the business innovation, the disruptive business ideas, must come from the companies who deal with those businesses. The technology disruption and the technology implementation and what the possibilities are and how to implement things on a scale worldwide using cloud computing and hybrid IT and so on, these aspects come best from a technology company. So this digital co-creation is something where two parties sit down and with the business expertise and with the technology expertise, putting those two together in those workshops, it produces something really interesting, really surprising, and oftentimes something really, really disruptive. So, disruption is not something to be afraid of. In its digital form, it is very disruptive. It is more scary than it used to be, but prepared minds can deal with that. And everybody, every individual, every company, every country needs to think about, where is my place in this big digital disruptive value chain? Thank you.